Thanks, little guy.
Ding.
Oh, thank you.
Ding.
Did I miss something? When did we get to Disneyland?
Česko kutuutaan Krista Renko ja Oscar.
Yes, I bet you have.
Hey guys, it's Stephanie. Welcome back to the Cantina, your friendly neighborhood bar manager, Wookiee Wrangler, chaos coordinator. I am here to talk a little business news today. So yesterday, Deadline, basically said that Disney's third quarter earnings report was down. Wall Street estimated their earnings to be $21.4 billion, and it came in at $20.2 billion, which is $1.2 billion discrepancy. That's kind of a loss. And then Bob Iger comes out and says Galaxy's Edge is a failure, basically a failure and empty. Then Bloomberg today basically says, kids these days, where are the kids? Why is Star Wars Galaxy's Edge not working at Disney? All right. This goes through everything, okay? This is why you have to be so careful when you're doing something, when you're a creator, but everything you do hitches on to the market. Okay, and I'm a free market economist. The market is not moral. It is not immoral. It is what it is. It goes and comes with the consumer's whims, and we have the idea of you have a product, people want, people buy it. Okay. Right now, Lucasfilm's not creating a product anybody wants. In fact, also it was pointed out that they're already talking about estimates about what the Rise of Skywalker is going to make. Now, my friends in Hollywood have told me the feeling around the industry is it won't make more than $800 million. That's awful. That is beyond awful for a Star Wars movie. This is the last part of the saga, the most important part of Star Wars, okay? And really? Now, official estimates, media estimates, it should make like 1.4 billion, blah, blah, blah. That's not that good either, if you really sit down and think about it. What are they going to do? Right, and why is this happening? I don't necessarily think it's the kids. I don't necessarily think it's it's not Star Wars fatigue. I'd be perfectly happy to go to a movie every 6 months if it was done well and if it respected what the saga's about. TFA was a hurried, mediocre script that didn't utilize the talent in front of the screen very well. It disgraced Han Solo completely. It disgraced Leia completely. The companion book to it, Bloodline, is just, she's got to go back to the Iowa Writers Workshop and proselyte herself again to the Yoda there, that whoever the Yoda is that runs that place, and ask him to teach her to write again, okay? Because it was awful. She also should get into a relationship with a man so she understands what that's about. And she doesn't understand shit about male-female relationships, that's for sure. But anyway, we're not talking about that. But it goes with everything else. TFA, it took me a year to admit that it was not a good movie. Like I said, it didn't utilize the talent in front of the screen. I mean, people didn't go to see Rey. I'm sorry. We didn't know who she was. We still don't know who she is officially. And we should have in TLJ, but that's another story. We don't care about Finn. And that's part of Lucasfilm's fault. That's Rian Johnson's fault. We don't care about Poe. I just want to go to sleep every time I see him. Oscar Isaac is probably not the actor to play that role. And simple reason is this. There has to be a real masculine charm and a real masculine quality that a man has when he's playing a role like that. Top Gun 2 is coming out. Tom Cruise is not my favorite actor, by the way. But him as Maverick, there's a pilot for you. Harrison Ford. Need I say more? Bradley Cooper as Chris Kyle in American Sniper. Clint Eastwood. I'll even dare say Mel Gibson. Yeah, I said Mel Gibson, don't yell at me. Man's a phenomenal filmmaker, even though he's batshit crazy. I still like him. And even if he is wrong about a few things. All right, but let's go further. You can't make characters like that and have the old fans go, oh, wow, this is a great character, I really like him. Some have. Most are like, the only cool thing about this is, who is Rey? And that's been the dominating, and that was a dominating debate within the fan community between TFA and TLJ. And we didn't get a real answer, okay? Implying is not the same as Rey is the daughter of, okay? And then this bullshit democratizing the Force. What? No. And Laura Dern she kept her mouth shut on that one too. Vice Admiral Gender Studies. Y'all know how I feel about that. Anyway, if you're not making a product that people want, people aren't going to buy it. And there was a huge sharp spurt of, Star Wars merchandise that was being sold right after TFA came out and right before. People were real excited. And then TLJ came in, and then Rogue One happened. People were less excited, but Rogue One, for my money, is probably the best movie that they've made since George sold it. I actually can watch that and not feel completely violated, which is, a good thing. But let's go further. So we got that. Then we get, but it didn't sell as much. I still go to Ollie's and I still go to like dollar store to buy, envelopes or something, and you happen to walk past their toy section and you see Rogue One toys. What? But then TLJ happened, and all the hype and all the things we thought were going to happen, and Rian Johnson saying he was going to subvert expectations and pull the rug out from under us. Yeah, he did. I don't know what he thought he was doing, but when Mark Hamill told him, we're not making an art house flick that the critics will like and the fans will hate. We're making a Star Wars movie. It's really not that difficult, and it doesn't have to... It doesn't have to be something complicated. Star Wars, the saga, the Skywalker family saga, is a linear kind of thing, okay? You go from one generation to the next generation to the next one. You don't have to have, Fellini-esque sort of things going on, and like hint at this and hint at that. People aren't going to this for that kind of thing. They're going to this because they love Star Wars and they want to know what's going on with the characters, okay? And we got nothing. I mean, I've seen the movie. I had the book. Are you kidding me? I mean, and that's the least bitch about it that I have, okay? Then people did stop buying the merchandise, okay? All right, so Hasbro, now, when they reported what they earned, didn't even add in Star Wars merchandise. That is how bad it has gotten, okay? This is bad, all right? Let's go to Solo. I don't even have to tell you what a crap show that was. I mean, first off, you got John Kasdan uttering out loud after the movie came out to a disaster. I really wasn't sure if I wanted to make it. Then why the hell did you make it? Who, I know back in 2008, George Lucas and Larry Kasdan had been mulling the story about Han. Fine. Okay. And then, Kathleen Kennedy shows up, the misandrous, man-hating wench that she is. And they put together a script that was more focused on the slut, Quira, than on Han. They focused on what looks to me SJW politics. John Kasdan screaming Pando Lando didn't exactly help. And Alden Ehrenreich. I mean, you can defend him all you want, but he was inappropriately cast for that role. Again, I'm going to ask you this. Because we all know Steven Spielberg jumped in and said, I think my accountant's son, who's a friend of my daughter's, should really get the role. And Kathleen going, okay, Steven, okay. And basically, Anthony Ingruber should have had the role, got screwed. Unforgivable by the way. Uneffing forgivable. Because he'd have brought people in. I'm kind of glad, though, he didn't have anything to do with it, because I think it would have ruined his career. Not everybody can play that role. I'll explain something to you. For those of you who haven't heard this, because I've talked about this ad nauseum. When you had Kurt Russell auditioning, who would have been okay, the role was going to be given to Al Pacino, which was like, George, are you smoking dope? No. Pacino said no. He auditioned Burt Reynolds, Chris Walken, and then there was a guy reading with the other actors named Harrison Ford. In what logical, what color of the world the sky is in these people's world? But do any of you out there honestly think, and this is a question I want somebody to answer me, back in 1974 or 5, when George was casting for Han, Leia, and Luke and everybody else, why you think Alden Ehrenreich would have got the role over any of those guys? Would he have gotten past headshot and resume? Hell to the no. All right, and this is the problem. Not only is Hollywood devoid of creativity and originality, it is also a place of fucked up nepotism. John Kasdan writing the script. Okay, fine. His dad's sitting there with him. Okay, fine, but still, I like John. He's a nice guy. But maybe he wasn't the right guy just because he's Larry's son. And he even expressed doubts himself about playing the role. All right. And Spielberg jumping in to save his daughter's friend's, chance at playing Han Solo. Spielberg is the one that fought for Harrison Ford to play Indiana Jones. You would think he'd see the remarkable difference between both men. Harrison Ford is a completely different species. All right. Now, maybe, Spielberg's lost his touch, doesn't understand the characters, did a favor, I don't know, felt like he was helping out his daughter's friend, his accountant's son. But did it work? No! And the screwing over of Anthony Ingruber is just appalling. Okay, so let's go further. So we've got this merchandise that's running on the shelves. In fact, oh God, for the last year, 8 months, there have been 2 Quera dolls and several, both foot tall ones, and a couple of Alden Ehrenreich Han Solos rotting on the shelf at Target. Now they're gone. And that whole Star Wars section is bare. Let me tell you something. Come here, closer. They weren't bought by people who wanted them. They were probably sold in a buyout to Ollie's or somebody else, some other discount store, because no one wants it. Again, Hasbro didn't even add in Star Wars merchandise earnings. All right. Comic books. Did you know in October, 2 months before The Rise of Skywalker comes out, they're giving away free comic books? Star Wars comics. This is what desperation looks like. And they don't get it. Yeah, I'll give you the real short, skinny here. If you actually did Star Wars, you wouldn't have a problem. If you stay consistent with who the characters were, you wouldn't have a problem. Okay? You got a problem because you weren't consistent. You hurried it up. You hired inappropriate actors to play iconic figures, iconic characters. They had no business at all doing. Okay? Your new characters in the Saga trilogy are shallow, boring, and because of the way Lucasfilm has written them, piss the fans off. And then somehow that's the fans' fault, and that's another problem, but we've talked about that before. You know what? If you put it, here's the deal. Was it Ford's fault that the Pinto sucked, or was it the customer's fault? It's Ford's fault, right? They fixed that, right? They got rid of that. They got rid of the Pinto. Ta-da! Okay. You can't do Star Wars without Star Wars. Galaxy's Edge doesn't really have any Star Wars in it. Here's a rumor I heard. One of the Imagineers, John, that Star Wars dad, or the Star Wars dad, said that he has heard, and this guy's been pretty consistent because he predicted female Thor. What a great idea. I don't even like the MCU. What the fuck? Anyway, that they're pulling Kylo Ren out of Galaxy's Edge, and they're building sets now for Darth Vader because people don't like Kylo Ren. All right. And I have a feeling in order to fix what they broke, you're going to see a lot of the sets change. We couldn't have, a Tatooine spot, a Dagobah spot, Vader's castle. How about a Star Wars New Hope trench run ride? Millennium Falcon ride that actually makes sense. Maybe going through the asteroid field. That would have been fucking cool. But no, we've got a giant arcade game. It looks cool, but everything else surrounding it is not Star Wars. You can't do Star Wars without Star Wars. Why are kids not interested? In the end, and why aren't you making money? Why did you lose $1.2 billion in the third quarter? It's down. When you feed on people's nostalgia and then don't deliver, they get pissed off. When you kill off the two main male characters in such a bitch-tastic way, people get pissed off. The kids aren't interested in seeing beta cuck Luke, beta cuck Han. They want to see the guys that they saw in A New Hope to Return of the Jedi. They don't want to hear. Parents don't want Pando Lando, for Christ's sakes. Okay? Oh, she was just a pet. Oh, fuck. Tell that to John Kasdan then, for Christ's sakes. Okay, do you understand now where y'all went wrong? This is where you went wrong. Now, sure, the MCU right now is padding earnings, right? You're going woke now. Just look at what the director of the new movies has been saying. Taika, whatever, I can't even pronounce his name. He's gone full Ryan Tard on the fans. Where do you get these people? And you can't do Star Wars without Star Wars. And I'm going to tell you something. This ain't Star Wars. It could have been. Maybe someone at Disney, Alan Horn, whatever, will suddenly wake up one day and say, maybe we should have had Ridley Scott direct all three of them. Maybe we should have had Chris Nolan direct all three of them. Maybe we should have had Peter Jackson direct all three of them. Okay, instead of J.J. Abrams, who I think is a decent guy, but he's in way over his head and was, obviously, in The Force Awakens. And I can't even say Ryan Johnson. And then, I mean, hey, maybe giving Colin Trevorrow the opportunity to do all three. I mean, he actually likes Star Wars. Okay, he's actually a fan. After seeing this, Ryan Johnson ain't no fan. Never has been, never will be. He doesn't understand it. And JJ's heart might be in the right place and he might actually be a fan, but he doesn't understand it either. And that's why Galaxy's Edge is failing, and that's why Disney lost $1.2 billion in the third quarter of this year. That is why they're not desperate. That is why you will probably see the OT characters and OT things at Galaxy's Edge. They have to do it. Because without them, without the prequel characters too, you don't have Star Wars. Because no one cares about the new characters. Because they weren't well developed enough. And trying to sell them while demoting, defaming, libeling, slandering Han, Leia, and Luke is bullshit. And the fans noticed that too, and so did the kids. And that's why the kids got pissed off. And also this. You cannot celebrate little girls without hurting, to the point where you make them superior, without hurting little boys. That's another thing parents don't like. Okay? This is Steph, signing out. See you on the Galaxy, see you on the Cantina. Please remember, tip the Wookiee bartenders 20%. No fights in the Cantina. You go and throw punches outside. No gunfights. You take that shit out on the street. No droids, no bounty hunters, no Reylos, no Rey Nobodies, no Rey Palpatines, no Rey Luke's clone hand. None of that shit. It's for real Star Wars fans. Steph, signing out. So it just makes sense to me that they would give, like I said, personality and a story to Rey's abduction and put some meat. If Zori Bliss is a scoundrel, she got there. Rey Nobody doesn't work, some kind. I think, and this probably did know of it. And this is my theory. So with Zori Bliss, if she's a scoundrel, as a writer, I would go this way. That Han lost the Falcon looking for something like that. But to me, they almost had to introduce the abductor of Rey into the story